Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on here to my latest Long Ranger. Let's get right into this. We've got an active pattern ahead, and as I show you through the maps this evening, folks, we got multiple systems that are going to roll through here over the next couple of weeks. That means there's going to be some chances for snow for some. That's going to be rain for others, though. Snow being in the forecast here really is going to highly depend on some cold air being locked into place. And getting that cold air to lock in place is really going to be the hard part in this pattern that we are in. It's not really a great pattern for snow for us here in the in the southern Indiana area here. Now, it's a great pattern for some of you for snow, particularly up here in the plains and on into the northern tier of the Ohio Valley. It's a great pattern for you for snow, but for those of us south of Indianapolis, say for example, it's not quite as great of a snow. Still, nonetheless, there are a few chances of some things rolling through, so let's sort of get right into this as we go. First off, let's put this here into motion, and let me show you what's going on here. We got a little clipper system that's out, not really a clipper system, rather, but we got a little shortwave here out to our west. That's going to dive in, and lo and behold, look what happens here. By the time you get in, there's a little bit of light precipitation there over Kansas into Missouri, and then it just sort of falls off the map. Where does it go? Well, you've got to look here at the vorticity charts and see what's supporting that. All right, go back here. So there is that light precipitation here that you see around Colorado, and then it's going to spill down here into Kansas. What's supporting that? Well, what you've got here is a little bit of spin in the atmosphere. We're looking at vorticity here at the 500 millibar level. So you got some vorticity here. That's a spin in the atmosphere. That's producing those snow showers in that little short wave as it rounds the trough there. And but watch what happens to that. That vorticity gets even stronger as it comes right over Indiana here. But yet you look at this and you don't see any situation, you don't see any QPF here at all. Why is that? Well, we have some very cold, dry air locking into place. Cold air is typically drier air than moist air. It's just not possible for it to hold nearly as much moisture. And so because of that, a lot of times the models will see this and say, oh, well, it's just too cold. It's just too cold. There's not enough moisture there, so there's no QPF, no moisture in the atmosphere to be able to leak down to the ground. And so it'll just drop it, and it won't show any QPF at all. But here's the thing that I've observed over the years. I've seen it many times whenever you've got a pretty decent little Vort Max here coming across you, even though you've got the cold air locked into place, and we know, yeah, cold air may not necessarily take on, excuse me, cold air may not hold as much moisture. When you've got these little, this much vorticity in the atmosphere, these little short waves moving in, they can find they can find moisture in the atmosphere that the models just don't see. So even though the Euro here is not showing anything at all, nor is the GFS for that matter, I wouldn't buy that. I still think that there is a possibility that we're going to see some light snow showers out of this here over portions of Illinois and Indiana as this rolls through. Now, that is not a guarantee by any means, but that's just what I feel knowing meteorology and knowing the background on this. I've always said be careful who you trust for your weather sources. Don't trust those that only just show pretty maps and have no background in the understanding of the science. The science of meteorology tells me something's going on here. And guess what? Just because a global model like the Euro or the GFS doesn't necessarily see it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And lo and behold, if we switch over to a mesoscale model like the high resolution NAM, what do you see? Well, here you go. There you've got some snow late on Wednesday afternoon moving in, and watch what this does. As it gets closer to us, it's rain here on the leading edge according to the precip typing map, but it changes over to all snow. This is not a heavy snow. And watch as it comes over us. Yes, it encounters our very dry air here. It's later in the evening times, and it doesn't give us a whole lot, but it does give us some spotty snow showers. That's been in my forecast now for several days, all right? This does not give us a huge amount, but we know as this rolls through here, I do believe that we're going to see something as this rolls through. All right, so that's one model's idea of it. We know it would follow snow. If you look at temperatures here at the 850 millibar level, it's perfectly cold enough for it to snow. What about temperatures here at the surface? Temperatures there at the surface, though, for much of southern Indiana in the mid-30s. Now, you've probably heard the myth, well, it's not going to stick to the ground if it's in the mid-30s. That's true only to a limited extent. It's going to depend really more on the intensity of the snow. If we get a pretty heavy snow shower moved down, yeah, it can stick whether it's at 35 or not. Because what can happen is you can have you can have surfaces, grassy and elevated surfaces, cooler than what the air temperature around it is, and so it's possible your car tops and your grassy surfaces and some of those elevated surfaces may be below freezing and allowing for something to stick while your roads may be fine still with this. So that's a real possibility with this. It does go below freezing as you go later into the overnight hours. So there is a possibility here, I do believe, that we've got something that could stick. Do I think this is going to be a huge event? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think what future radar here, as I back this up and show you, I think this is right. We've got a couple of snow showers that'll move into the area. A few, not everybody is going to get these snow showers. They're going to be spotty little dots on the map. But whoever does get these snow showers on Wednesday night, overnight into Thursday, there is possibility you could get a light coating of snow out of this. It's not going to be a 1, 2, 3 inch kind of a storm out of this, but it could cause a few slick spots, and you could get a little bit of a dusting to maybe a little bit of more of a light coating out of this. Something that we'll watch. We'll know a little bit more tomorrow as we see the radar trends coming over us. Now beyond this, here's what the GFS shows for that, and you see nothing there at all. Again, GFS and Euro are global models, though the NAM is a mesoscale model. You can see things with a finer resolution that sometimes these other global models can't see. Pattern here, though, we get high pressure locked into place for a few days, but then you've got another storm that rolls in here on Sunday. Right now the GFS rolls this in, and it's snow for, say, up here around Michigan, but the closer you get here to Indiana, it's more of a rain kind of a setup here. So we'll probably go with a mix of rain and snow at this point. Temperatures look like they're going to actually warm back up just a little bit. We got some pretty cold weather coming that I'll talk about in a second. They look like that's going to warm up for us a little bit, and I think we're going to fight with a rain and a snow. Might see some snow possibly on the backside. We'll have to see about that. Then the GFS is just a train of pain here for us. You got another system that comes through the 13th that could be rain or snow. Again, this is just too far out to really know the fine-tuned details yet. At this point, right now, it has southern Indiana in the rain zone with maybe some light flurries on the backside. We'll see. There's a Clipper system that dives down here on Wednesday the 14th. The GFS here is aiming this more at southern Indiana, or Kentucky rather. If you look at the Euro, there's the rain, by the way, on Sunday as it moves through. Goes to maybe some very light snow showers here on the backside of that Sunday. Then here's the Clipper system as it dives down. And the Clipper system, as it dives down in the week, it takes more as a light snow event here for us, and makes it more for Indiana than it does for most of Kentucky there. There's the first one that moves through, and then here's the second one that moves through that Clipper system there as well. So there's still a lot of uncertainty with this, but what illustrates for us folks here is that we've got multiple systems yet to go through. And then you get another bigger system here. The GFS is wanting to show, guess what, rain going to some snow here on the 17th into the 18th on that weekend as well. A pretty different, bigger system. And then you got more precipitation coming as you head later in the month. But this one, is it going to be a rain coming to snow? Well, folks, guess what? We're really going to fight this over the next month or so, and maybe even most of the winter. If you go back and just read and watch my winter forecast videos and read my winter forecast on southernindianaweather.com, I said we're going to fight the rain snow line all winter long. I put us in the battle zone for that rain snow ice set up here in my forecast maps, and it's coming true here in December. I think you're really going to see a sharp cutoff in potential snow totals, especially with this system. This is the one for later in the week, but if we go back here to the system Sunday, I think that's really going to illustrate this for us as well. Let me get it up here, and there you go. This will illustrate it pretty well for us. This is the 18Z GFS. This actually shows a little bit more snow for southern Indiana than what the 12Z did. The 12Z had a pretty sharp cutoff line where it was snow north of Indy, and then south of I-70 way you didn't get much of anything at all out of this system. So there's going to be a sharp cutoff between the rain and snow in these storms coming up. Don't be surprised if that's right over southern Indiana at some point in time. I really think Indy northward is going to have a pretty good month for snow for you watching in northern Indiana. Those of us here in Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, places like that, and even further south, frankly, we're going to really struggle to get snow. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get any accumulating snow this month. That said, it's always possible. There's some hope out there. The American ensembles show this over the next 2 weeks, and they show plenty of chances for accumulating snow for us among the different ensemble members here as well. There's the control model with plenty of snow, and then the different iterations here give us decent chances of snow. And here's what the ensemble mean ends up showing out of down here. So yeah, there's plenty of chances for snow out of this the next couple of weeks. But the reality is the pattern is not overly conducive to it. All right, you've got the North Atlantic Oscillation, our blocking going back positive. That means the blocking is going to go away. If that's the case, then these systems, then the cold weather and the systems become very fast, very transient. It doesn't keep the cold air locked in place long enough, and the storms aren't there long enough to sit and spin over us. It's hard to get that. The Atlantic Oscillation, the AO, Arctic Oscillation rather, excuse me, going back in the positive as well. And so that's going to be a knock against us. PNA going negative. All three of those are the exact opposite of what we want for a snow lover's dream here in the Ohio Valley. All right. The one thing working in our favor, the EPO is going strongly negative, and that will help keep with the supply of some cold air for us. It does look like the cold air is going to be there, but it's going to be back and forth a little bit. So here's where we are at right now. That warmer air, those warmer air anomalies are moving off. Watch the cold air as it dips over in here. Some very cold temperatures up here around Montana and Idaho, portions of Washington up here, and you just sort of watch. The bitterly cold air comes first to the west, and then it spreads over much of the nation as the west warms back up. And we've got some pretty darn cold air to deal with out of this system. Then we get a brief warm up on Sunday. That system moving in on Sunday, it turns into rain because we get a southwest flow. We get some warm, moist air pumping in there. But it's only brief because behind that we turn on the chilly side again. But look at this. The southeast ridge starts to kick up after that, and there's then the question on how far this next shot of cold air will dip. You see it's not going as far south on this. A southeast ridge starting to kick this up and not let it dip as south. The western ridge kind of forcing it to maybe flatten out a little bit up here as well. There you see it illustrated in this one as well. And then as you go later into the term, there are hints that the GFS says, no, we're going to start to warm back up a little bit as we get later in the month as well. So the cold, it's not going to be locked into place for an extremely long time. That said, there's some very cold air coming with this. In fact, the GFS going absolutely barbaric on its operational runs here. Let's get back to hour 324 in a minute. Let's just go back and show you temperatures. Anomalies don't always help that much, I don't think. So here you go. The 40s are gone, and the rest of this week, here we go on to Thursday. We may hit the low 30s at best on Thursday. And then we're going to go to temperatures on the teens as you wake up Friday morning. And this takes us, maybe into, the upper 20s for highs on Friday. Very, very cold weather here. And then upper teens there again on Saturday morning. Maybe warming back up to the 30s for the weekend. And then there's that warmer nose coming in there as well. With some rain there potentially on Sunday, but it's a cold rain. You notice this warms us up to about 34 degrees. Some of the other runs have warmed us up a little bit warmer than that, to around 40. There's been some variances into this. This is a particularly cold run, but you don't see any extremely warm weather here. And then as you get later into the period, just watch how extreme some of this cold gets. By the time you get to hour 324 here, it's got below freezing. Definitely below freezing. Below freezing all the way down here deep into the Gulf, and below zero here for Indiana. Do I buy that? Not at all. Yeah, typically you have to have a pretty heavy snowpack to get that around here, and you got to have the polar vortex visiting or some major blast of Arctic air. This may be a little bit overdone if you use the GFS ensembles, especially when you're this far out. It's a little better to use the ensembles. Watch what this does. Same time period, there's no below zero weather here around until you get maybe up into the border here. Negative 13 up in northern Indiana. The zero we've got down here, you're talking about an 11 and a 17. That's a pretty big difference. It's cold, but it's not just ridiculously cold out of this. So the bottom line is we got some cold weather coming, but there's still big questions on how it lasts. I think, after tomorrow, I really think that we're going to struggle to get above freezing for the next 2 or 3 days beyond that. Once we get into Sunday, we're going to go to the upper 30s to the low 40s, I think, and then we're going to be back into the 30s for a while next week. We might get another reinforcing shot where we have some of that bitterly cold air. It's possible the GFS could be sniffing something pretty big out with this, but, it has had a few runs now where it has showed this, but, by and large, go home GFS, you're drunk the way that looks to me right now with this setup. I just don't see that. I think this is a little bit more reasonable with the ensembles. It's cold any way you look at it. The question is now, can these active systems, as we are going across, all of these systems that race over the area here, can some of those produce us some snow? Well, it's just going to depend on how this cold air gets locked into place. If we can get the cold air locked into place long enough, absolutely we can get some snow out of this. But if it stays rather transient, and there's a good chance with the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO going positive, there's a good chance it stays pretty transient. Snow may be a hard find for the rest of the month in December outside of some very small chances. So folks, we'll just have to see. Keep it tuned here. I'll have an update tomorrow for you on the snow if it does decide to do much of anything.